I just got done listening to a presenter come to our school, and he was talking about classroom management. Actually, multiple tiers of student support is actually the focus. But part of that was, how do you encourage good behavior and discourage bad behavior? And one thing he talked about was trying to find triggers. What are the triggers that cause students to act a certain way? And so to eliminate many of those triggers, you want to focus on procedures. With the right procedures, you can eliminate or greatly reduce many of those triggers that will cause behavior that you are not looking for. And one of the procedures that is overlooked so many times is end of class procedures. And I understand why, because you spend 45 minutes with these students, you're like, oh man, I'm just exhausted. I've been there before. I've been there where it's been one of those periods and I keep looking at my watch and thinking, all right, hang in there for another minute. That's $1 more. One more minute, $1 more. You can do this. So I've been there before. I'm like, oh man, I just want to make it through this period. But I'm telling you, if you do not have procedures put in place for beginning of class as well as the end of class, you might find yourself running into a lot of problems behavior-wise. So do not negate, do not forget end of class procedures. So I want to show you what I do to make sure that students are working from bell to bell, from beginning, and then what I do at the end to make sure they work all the way through, so that way there's no problems. And it's my belief, idle hands are the devil's playground. So I want to make sure they're constantly doing something so that way they don't have the idle hands. And so and I have this for everything, but let's talk about my notes. So I have a routine down with the notes, and the students know this routine. Anytime we're done with their notes, the next step for us to do is a summary, all right? And then after the summary, we count points. And we've done this so many times, students know the routines. Now you might think to yourself, students must get exhausted, the same thing over and over. Partly true. The good thing is it's different information, so that is good. But I as my core belief, that students above everything else want stability, predictability. Their lives are full of things that are unstable. I mean, some of these home lives are horrific. And so if I can provide a place that is stable, predictable for them, they feel safe. So even if, the procedures we do day in and day out are fairly the same, it still provides that good environment where they can learn it. So end of class procedures, here's what it looks like in my class. So I'm just gonna use my notes for example. Everything is planned out to the minute. Now, another thing is this. Let me kind of show you this. So let's say we're doing our notes, and this is the last slide that students are copying. Is this right up here? Don't worry about the information, but just this is the last slide that students are copying, and they copy this down. Now, I know already how long it takes my students to write a summary and how long it takes them to count the points. It is exactly 8 minutes. I want to give my students 8 minutes to write a summary and to count their points and to pack it up. So if I finish my notes early, and let's say I don't know, because each class is a little different, right? Usually the first period of the day goes longer, but by the time you have it down to the last period, you got the material down and you seem like you have extra time. You want to plan for that. And so I plan for that. So if I find myself having extra time at the end of my notes, I don't want to just tell the students, all right guys, take it easy. You don't want to do that, because idle hands, devil's playground. You might run into some problems. And so I actually built into my notes another slide as a catch-all, as a backup, as something else students can work on if need be. Let me show you what that looks like. Is basically work out of the textbook. Now what's nice about this is, if I never get to this slide, that's okay, because I already gave them the information. I already went over them with what I want them to learn in the notes, right? So I already did that. So this isn't something they're going to be missing. So if the class is, we're doing it great and we're just perfect on time, then there's no need for this slide right here. We'll just kind of skip it. But for the class where there's extra time, I want to make sure they have something they can work on. So I call this enrichment. And so this is just reading out of the book that talks about what we just covered while we're doing the notes. So this just reinforces what they just learned. But if they don't get to it, they're not missing out on anything because I already covered that in the notes. So extra time, students could work on this. But once again, it's all planned. I know exactly ahead of schedule what's going on. And then I keep looking at my watch. I know I got 8 minutes of class left. And so what I'll do is this. All right, guys, time for your summary. And I'll put the next slide up. And now got 5 minutes for them to work on the summary. The other thing I want to point out is the timer up here. The timer is essential because it is a visual cue for them to stay on task. And so I'll do something like this. All right, guys, you got about 5 minutes for a summary. I'll hit the start button and boom, there we go. They have the visual cue. They know they got exactly 5 minutes to work on the summary. CrossFit days, there it is. And so they work on the summary, right? That's what they're doing for 5 minutes. 5 minutes are up. Let's say the timer goes off, 5 minutes are up. Then I know we got 3 minutes of class left. I want you to pick up on just how planned out everything is. The reason you can do that is because you have an idea already what you're teaching. Hopefully your class is structured so you're not creating the wheel every single day. You can create some sort of flow, some sort of routines in your class. And if you have those, it takes out a lot of guesswork out and you can plan better and you can be more effective. And so here I go. Summary's over. I know they got 3 minutes left. And here's my next slide. 3 minutes left. I'll tell them, all right, go ahead and count your points and look up here to see what you earned. And so students, 3 minutes left, they're gonna count their points. And once again, I've gone over this at the beginning of the year. We go over how to count your points. They'll count their points. They'll put the total at the top, let's say your notes, and they can look up here to see what they got. This is instant feedback on how they did that day during class. So students know that day if they're getting rewarded for their effort or not, right? There's no guessing game. They know, hey, if I slacked off today and I only got, 20 points, I earned an F for the day. And so it's once again, visual cue, immediate feedback, and so forth. And so this takes maybe about a minute for them to do, gives them about a minute or two to pack up. And then the final thing is, once again, routines, end of period routines. What they're gonna do is they're gonna basically put their paper in the bin as they walk out. So let me show you where the bin's at. It's right over here. And a minute or two before the bell rings for dismissal, will prop this door open with this little door stopper right here. So that way students, when the bell rings, they're not, fighting to get out, door slam, everything else. And I'll prop that door open. And then what I'll do for the last minute, 2 or 3, or even while they're working on their summary or they're counting the points, I'll walk the room just to make sure the desks are clean, make sure there's no trash on the ground. And in that way, because how you finish one class leads directly to how you start your next class. And so you want to make sure that you leave one class on a high note so that in the next class you start on a high note as well. And so the timer will go off, so the bell will ring, ding, and students are leaving, doors propped open, they have their work, and as they're leaving, they're just going to put the work right here as they leave. So I don't have to worry about collecting it, don't have to worry about all this other stuff, and the students have this down. So the best advice I can have for you is make sure you focus on end of period activities, end of period routines and procedures, so that way you can have an effective classroom from beginning to the end.